and we're going to put out 2.5 roughly there, and then we're going to go to 2.5 roughly here. So this chunk in the middle, this is my area I have to design to. So you see the kind of problem I have right off the bat. I prefer to do it this way because I could make a new file with this exact size and blah blah blah, but why bother? Because that means I have to drag everything in and copy and paste, and it's a waste of time. So just resize your original image a bit and get her set up to the way you want it. Figure out where the center point is and just move stuff around inside. It's much simpler and cleaner, and it eliminates some problems. So what I'm going to do is actually take this whole thing. Now I've got this all broken up. So in order to do this correctly, you may have to go in and select different things and move them around depending. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select this whole thing, and I'm going to go free transform, Command T, and I'm just going to reduce this thing down, just scale her down. And I have my fingers on the Shift and the Option key while I'm scaling this in order to constrain proportions in this particular design. So I'm going to keep this going down a bit because I actually have to maybe save some room for titling across here, that kind of stuff. So it looks pretty good. So I hit Enter or Return, and it's going to do its thing. Okay, so we got that set up roughly. So now I got to tackle this master class thing. So I'm going to open this guy up, and where on earth is the master class? Oh, there's my gloves. There we go. There's a rule for everyone. Always name your stuff, because now I'm wasting time and your time trying to find. There it is, the master class. So we got this guy set up. Little problem here. Not sure how to handle that. I'm going to probably have to break this up, or maybe make it. Why do you do this? I'm going to have to break this up, and if I make it smaller, well, it doesn't really have as much pop, does it? Might have to tackle that later. Here's what we're going to do. Dun, 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 dun. I'll do that. Yeah, don't know if that works. Bummer. I think what I'm going to do for this particular piece is just reduce it down, just for the sake of time and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to move this guy up a bit like so, and I'm going to scale it down. And I got to keep this thing well within my area, and I might go back and change this later. So I think it needs a bit more pop, but we'll leave it for now. And that should be pretty good. I might actually have to reduce this down further, so depending. I might actually take this and maybe angle it like so, just to give it a bit more pop, but for right now I'm just going to leave it right here like that. And this leaves some room for titling and that kind of stuff. So now we have this set up. I'm going to save it because this is my 400 DPI, blah 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 blah. Notice I'm keeping all this extra junk on here just in case. I like to play it safe. I like to keep extra stuff on the canvas. This file size is rather large, but at this point I'm just poking around with this thing, and it's going to save it. And then really for the next part of the final part of this little demo is that I'm going to, I can do a couple things. I can flatten this thing right away, okay, but I'm probably have to go back and do some more stuff. But what I'll do is, if you've reached this stage and you're done with it, this is what you do. First thing you want to do is you want to go in here and you want to merge visible. Everything that's visible, merge it together. So it's going to take everything and squash it. Okay, so, and then what it's going to do, it's going to leave all the little bits and pieces that say you didn't want. So then you take all this stuff and you get rid of it. So this is the layer. This is it. It's flat. You can't do anything with it. Okay, so what you want to do now is then you go under Mode, CMYK, and go OK. And notice the color shifts just a bit. If I was to do it the other way and just take all my layers in RGB and convert to CMYK, all the color adjustments are going to go out the window. It's going to look really crazy. So this way it's nice and easy and it's done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here and go to Save As. Do not save your original because if you have to go back and do some edits, well, now you can't, because you saved your modified original layered file as a flattened image, and you're pretty much snookered. So so what we're going to do now is go to Save As, and I usually just put on, you know, flat exclamation point at the end, just so I can, you know, it's there in my memory and I know what's going on. I don't have to save it as an EPS. I like to leave things as Photoshop. Can actually previews better. It renders okay, so it's not a problem. So there we go. So that's my thing. So now I go back here, and I'm going to go back to this file in my InDesign file. This is laid out in InDesign. Actually, I can just do this in Illustrator, and I'll probably go through and show you guys both anyway. So this is my Photoshop file right now. I'm going to go into File, Place. Dum-da-dum-da-dum. And we're going to go into here, and we're going to find my flat PSD file. And it's probably going to resize everything on me, because this file is reduced to, so just for placement. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get all my information up. Right, so here's the thing. In InDesign, there's two different ways to view a picture. So if I click on this guy right now, I'm actually going to turn off this whole layer box, everything. So this is my jewel case. Up here, when I've got the selection tool selected and I click on this box, so I've got my bounding box set up here. It says right here the percentage that it's at 100%. Right, that's the actual percentage of just the box itself, the picture box, not the picture inside of it. If I want to find out, I can do two ways. First way, the easiest way, I can drag selection tool, click on it, go back in here. Notice how it turns into a hand. Okay, so it turns into a hand. I click on this thing. Now it gives me this actual bounding box. This is the actual physical size of the image. So it's telling me, and I can take this hand and I can click and drag this thing over however way. And this is what I mean by when you're in Photoshop leaving some extra canvas space, because now this allows me to modify the layout without having to go back into Photoshop and wasting more time opening it up, saving it, placing it, replacing it, etc., etc. So my point is that up here, notice that this has been scaled to 76%. So if I go over here and click on it, it says 100%. If I go over here with the direct selection and click on inside it, now you're seeing it's actually at 76%. There's also this nice little thing called, if you hit F8, info. Now the info will give you some information. I'm just curious, if you go to file info, there we go. And it's going to tell you all kinds of stuff. This is all the XMP data as well. So this info button here, you can go to file info, you can figure out all this stuff that's going on with it, the origin of it, etc., if it's filled in. So right now you see this type, it's in Photoshop. The actual PPI is 400 PPI, pixels per inch, or DPI, dots per inch, depending. The effective PI is 520. So if these numbers are not the same, this means that it's been scaled or reduced in some way. The color space is CMYK, that's what I want to see. Because this is 520, this is telling me that, yeah, man, there's something going on, it's been reduced. So I want to go back over here, and I'm going to click on this guy. And notice this is 76%, so we're just going to throw this, I'll just bring her back to 100%. And now you see in the actual information, it's a Photoshop file, the actual PPI is 400, the effective PPI is 400, and the color space is CMYK, etc., etc. So now we've got this guy. So now we can kind of move this around and center it and do whatever you want. So I'm going to turn this back on, my actual layer itself, and I'm just going to kind of fudge. What I was going to do is try to move this little guy out of the way so you guys can see. So you see what we have here, we're getting pretty close. Excuse me. And I'm just going to scooch this over a bit. So it fits, you know, and that's kind of what I want. I'm going to probably go in here and mess with this title a bit more because I want this to have a bit more pop. And that's pretty much how you take a web file that's set up for horizontal format, you know, say it's your banner or it's the top of your header or that kind of thing, same principles apply. So you go through the steps that I've just kind of outlined, and then you go ahead and place it in InDesign or Illustrator, and you can always go back and forth because you have a master layered file, a modified master layered file. Just don't forget to flatten it, convert it to CMYK, and then resave that flattened file as like, you know, layout master / flat or something. So you've got this. You can always go back to the layered file and make modifications in the end. Okay, so that's part 1 of this whole big huge demonstration. Come back for part 2. Thanks, guys.